So to summarize what we learned in Lesson 8, in this lesson, we learned a few best practices for color use. We learned how to use the color wheel to find colors that will complement our text. We learned about hexadecimal notation for colors, where all colors are expressed in notations related to the amount of red, green, and blue in them. And we saw how hexadecimal notation enables you to apply nuanced colors to your elements. We learned how to add transparency to our colors with the RGBA color model. We learned about the 3 color-related style properties that you can use to apply to container, backgrounds, borders, and text using CSS. We learned the basics of preparing graphics for use on web pages. We saw that this is very complex, and we learned just enough in this lesson to where we can just do it a little bit, kind of enough to get by for what we need to do. There's whole people that just major in graphic design and just only do that. A lot of times as a web developer, you will work with graphic designers, so we'll have to do a little bit, and this book kind of covers what the bare minimum of what we need for that. The examples in this lesson, though, they use this free software called GIMP, G-I-M-P. It's kind of like a cheaper free version of Adobe Photoshop, and it's pretty easy to use. We learned how to crop, resize, tweak image colors, and we learned about the different file formats. We must keep in mind many considerations when including graphics in our site, including the graphic size, resolution, as well as how to use transparency, animated GIFs, and tiled backgrounds. So it talks about all this we should have learned. We learned about, after creating images, how to use the images on our website. We learned how to place them in our websites using the image tag, and how to include a short message that appears in place of the image as it loads, and that also appears whenever a user moves the mouse pointer over the image. We learned how to control the horizontal and vertical alignment of each image, and how to wrap text around the left and right of an image. We learned how to make our pages more interactive, and we learned how to use images as links by either using the A tag around the image or by creating image maps. We also learned how to embed video and sound on a web page. We learned how to use a simple link to a multimedia file, which is the most broadly supported and flexible option for playing multimedia content on your web page. We also learned how to use the video and source elements to embed media player directly in our web page. We also learned about the audio element in HTML5, which enables the browser to render audio files. And we also got some tips for including multimedia in our web pages. So Lesson 8, Chapter 8 was a big one. There's a lot of stuff in this chapter, but we should have a general idea of everything I just went over. And at the end of the lesson, it gives you a table. Usually at the end of every chapter or lesson has this little table of the tags and attributes that were covered in this lesson. So it talks about those: styling, background color, border. It talks about the video tag and the audio tag. And it goes over some video controls and audio controls for those new tags that we learned, such as like autoplay, preload, loop, etc. So as always, practice, practice, practice. Try the examples in your book. Try the examples that I showed you, and just try to use the stuff that we learned. We will be back next time with Chapter 9, Lesson 9.